Let me just 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1. I think I sound okay. That sounds pretty good. Let me just check. Okay, gentlemen, today we're doing something new. I'm gonna show you something more interesting than just a bunch of compressor breakdown. Today we're gonna start this specific. It's probably gonna be my first chapter or something. I don't know. It's just gonna be one of the chapters. Just quick rundown on the process of making a song and how it looks from a perspective of a label or perspective of a independent artist. Just from a kind of semi-professional perspective of a person who does this stuff professionally, but perhaps himself is not professional, like me. Because I didn't learn this through books. I learned it through experience. Fortunately, unfortunately, I don't know. I feel like if you learn through books, you have way more knowledge than I do in some areas, but at the same time, zero fucking experience. So here is the experience side of what processes, how they break down, how they follow one another, what is important to follow, what is not important to follow, and how does the feedback loop between the people or the different jobs or the different positions, how does the feedback loop work? Here, how it goes. So, on a surface, it's basically X and Y axes, but mostly it's X axis because we start from inception, which is just an original idea, a thought. It could be a sine wave, it could be a sample you heard, it could be a melody you sang or a riff you played on guitar, right? And it ends in curation. Curation is how people call a process of trying to sell your product, a song or an art piece, as a part of your portfolio. Very thoughtful, very unique, and also, fully invested into it, which means it's gonna include premieres, distributions, radios, interviews, music videos, all that type of stuff. This is curation. We're not gonna talk about it though because this is a business side of, not yet. We're not gonna talk about the business side of music production. What we're gonna talk about is literally the music side of the production. And it starts simple. You have two areas, which is production and post-production. Everyone probably heard these terms already, but now you know what people mean when they say production and post-production. Post-production does not just mean something specific. Post-production is everything from mastering to remixing to mixing the track. That is all considered post-production. Production is everything that comes before the final touches, which is composing, recording, and pre-mixing. So you have the right volumes for the product that they're gonna master. That's how it goes. And it also, in my opinion, I structured it this way because, let me explain, a lot of things here won't make sense to you if you study it in one way, because this is not a replication of any academic material you've met before. This is literally how I feel it goes and I'll tell you some things here, like you say, a mixer does correcting all sibilants and correcting all pitch and time aligning. That's kind of what a master does. That's kind of what a tracking engineer does, right? But wait, hold on. It all makes sense when I describe. Okay, let's start. In general, in a label or outside of label, if you're an individual artist seeking to make music through connections or paying some engineers online for doing your work, you gotta consider what type of engineer you're also looking for. And this also provides you all types of different jobs associated with these positions. So let's start. The easiest job, of course, is when you start composing. From your inception, the idea, it could be, let's say, a guy just thought of a beat and he goes straight into production. And in production, most important for you is get your beats ready. Red color, highlight, means that it's most important in this section, and black highlight means it's just secondary function, but it is important as well. So, production. Get your beats ready. It could be anything from a composition, as I mentioned here. You could be a studio producer, it could be a beat maker, it could be an instrumentalist, or it could be a vocalist. All of this would be considered a producer of music. Production. It is also what you kind of encounter in credits when you go through distributing your music through big distributions or just generally through distributions and you need to put out credits. They ask you for what type of role do those credits sometimes fulfill. You'll very frequently meet these roles in the production section. because that's what it is. Simple as production. It's the simplest thing you can get a hold of, and this is why it is a bit overrated from the point of how people value production, because it's not very fucking important. What's important, as you can see, as it goes further. After production, as you get the beats ready, you need to start thinking of composition. And composition requires you to have 4 topics. By the way, for composition, you have a composer and lyricist responsible, respectively for the instrumental and respectively for the vocal parts, right? So you have first one, topic of the piece. You need to determine the topic, the idea. What are you gonna talk about? Are you gonna use vulgar words? Are you gonna use I don't know, how do you call it, literary words? Are you going to use some poetic words? Are you going to use some simple mumbling, right? Then mood of the piece. Second one is mood of the piece. You need to decide what color it is. You need to decide what, is it going to be ambient? Is it going to be dark? Is it going to be aggressive? Is it going to be hard? Is it going to be soft? That type of mood, right? You need to understand if you're making a soft song, you need to align topic and mood. If you're making a hard song, you need to align topic and mood. But if you're making experimental song, this is where these two shine, because this is what composition is about. It's about, you could be switching topics and moods. And also instruments, third one, the instruments you use could be, also switched around to supplement certain moods and topics. And they're beautiful for it. Let's say orchestra is beautiful for something majestic, for something bright, for something, even, if you use like really aggressive orchestra, it's also good for very hard music. So that's the way you could fuse soft music and hard music. The way you could beat switch is by using, let's say, orchestra, because it's fitted for different moods and topics. Very easy instrument to use a beat switch on. And of course, the fourth one is order of things. As a composer, you need to have a clarity of mind with regard to how do you want to see your piece. You don't want it to just sound like a monotonous loop or like some disorganized loop. You want your dynamics, you want your breakdowns, you want your accelerations, you want your decelerations, you want your everything. You want the piece to be breathing, right? And in order for it to breathe, you need to order things around, put them in the right places. If it doesn't make sense in your head, it doesn't make sense. Just try to get it to make sense in your head, and then at least you're on the right track. Boom. And now, out of composing section, we are now getting into recording. As we start, gathering our ideas, basically, we also need to record a lot of things. It could be instrumentals, it could be vocals. And in order to understand it, you need to go through macro dynamic arrangement. You're going to encounter 3 type of arrangers in this, not even industry, just in my graph, to be honest, because I think there is 3 distinct arrangers, which is macro dynamic, micro dynamic, and then later you have musical dynamic arranger. Macro dynamic is responsible for the whole picture of the song. He makes sure things sits together, which is, it's his secondary task, but his primary task is the right tonalities of voice and right delivery of chorus and verses, so that, so that everything ahead, like microdynamic and premixer and mixer and master engineers, won't have so much difficulty correcting and feeding back the loop of corrections back to the production side. So kind of macrodynamic arranger is the first quality control that we have. It comes literally after production and composition. This is the first quality control you have. Right tonality of voice, makes sense. It has to fit the song. And right delivery of the verse and chorus, because most songs split in verses and choruses. Choruses repeat themselves. Verses are very, kind of unique. And they need to be rightly delivered. If macrodynamic arranger says something is off, something is off, right? He's also responsible for final vocal arrangement, makes sense. And he does reserve intro and outro. You need to look at macrodynamically, at it macrodynamically, so you have to reserve some intro and some outro. Makes sense, right? Not that important because, of course, you can do all these black tasks. You can do them further ahead, but they are very important for macrodynamic arranger as well. And now into recording, we have tracker. We have tracking engineer. Basically here, right, in the recording section, you have the macrodynamic, tracking, and organize. Mostly, tracking is responsible for tracking, but then arrangers are responsible for all the other arranging, right? But however, tracker is also ultimately could ultimately a better arranger and a tracker than an arranging engineer. So most of the times you'll see tracking engineer just working as tracking engineer. An arranger could be like just a person associated helping to, add some ideas. Basically, instead of arranging engineer, they become like, they become a assistant engineer to a tracking engineer. And they just help with a little bit of arranging. So tracker, for the reason of the tracker, he has all of his tasks in red. He has to record many instrumental takes. He has to record many vocal takes. He has to consult each other with the artist or with the instrumentalist on what is best to choose. And of course, he is responsible for the final vocal arrangement. What do I mean by record many instrumental takes? Doesn't mean you record all of them, like, how many push-ups do you want to do all of them? No, not that. You are trying to record as many as you think is good for you to work with. You don't want 1 or 2 takes because that is a bit shabby. You would want at least 3 takes so you can maybe switch around between them, cut them up or something, right? See which one is best. See if one has more sibilance or the other has less of it, or maybe one is more punchy and the other one isn't. And maybe you could play on those transients that you find in different takes and that you don't find in others. Makes sense, right? Record many vocal takes, same stuff. Consult each other and choose what is best. One important thing about tracker engineer that unlike mixer and master who is more reliable on their skill, tracker is reliable on communication with the person they're working with all the time, because tracker only works with a person. He tracks vocals, he tracks instruments. So every time tracker works, there has to be a person like involved in his process, and he has to be communicative with him. Basically, you have to be socially adaptive to the people you're working with, and you have to deliver their style, not yours. Your style is just being pristine and being, finessing your technical things, like, as I said, record many takes, and then later, if we go into this, then you can, correct sibilance, correct resonances, attenuation, and some shit like that. So all of it is way more important technically, but what is more important musically is getting to the artist you're working with. So consult each other is a must. And of course, final vocal arrangement is a must because you can see that basically tracker is responsible for all the recordings. Now we are transitioning from recording section to the premix section. Premix is where you just, fix your mix for the mixer and for the remixer, for the master, for everyone who is working after you in the post-production section. You're trying to make life as comfortable for them as possible, as easy for them as possible, and probably, as smooth, because the better result you give to them, it's going to be magnified by a lot. Because if master and mixer and remixer fuck with your premix, fuck with your, let's say, demo that you made, man, they're gonna give a lot of love to the project. They're gonna enjoy working with it, and that's what you're trying to achieve. You're trying to make life as easy for them as possible. So I'm not just adding this to tell you like, oh, this is what's important for this and this. It's also a very good like framework for you to work with. It's really good. So we start with organizing. To make life easier, we start with organizing. Remove what is not needed, as I said. Record many instrumental takes as a tracker. Record many vocal takes as a tracker. But just remember, remove what is not needed after. Select what you like, choose what you like, and that's it, right? That's good. Then sort everything by respective mix bus. That is important. What I mean by that is when you're mixing on when you're sending this to a mixer, right? To this one. They have like those big, fancy, cool mixing stations, right? You all see them, and they like have those automated moving knobs of volumes for all the channels, right? It looks fucking sick. It looks amazing. This is what mix buses is. If you want, let's say, them to automate your effects like reverb, delay, if you put reverb, delay on a channel, right? That's completely fine. Except you cannot automate those effects with a mixer. You can automate them only if you put them on some bus and then you attach that bus to the channel. What mix buses are usually used for is for attaching effects that you use frequently to just one channel and then attaching that channel to all the channels that, play the music. And that channel is called bus. you're trying to put all the effects on those buses. So generally, if you look at the mixing console, you will see that on the left side, you'll have all the channels, how the volumes automate on all the channels, all the, instruments, vocals, and all that. And then on the right side, on the far right side, will be the effects buses. And you will see that they also have generally different pattern of moving because it is completely unique. It's just effects channels for mixing. It's really nice. Organize it like that. Then also, make sure nothing clips because you need to get rid of as much noise as you can at your source material. Because after that, after you start applying a lot of effects, look, so far we haven't applied any fucking effects, right? Do you see that? There is no mention of the effects. You're only gonna start seeing effects coming in right now, literally, with the next fucking section. That's what I'm saying. You need to alter everything as much as possible at the source material, because trust me, your mixer and your remixer, your master will appreciate it a lot if you put that extra effort into your routine. And then also make sure that there is enough LUFS space for mixing. LUFS is just a standard unit of loudness measurement. It is the same shit as decibel, except it does it differently, and it does it more precise when you're mixing in stereo channels. The precise mechanics of it, I'm not going to explore to you because I forgot them, not going to lie. It's been a long time. Maybe I'll talk about it later in some other shit when I discuss it, but not right now. So LUFS, just make sure the mix is not too loud. Make sure there is enough space for the mixer, for the master, and for everyone else to adjust the volume for and to work with. So you're trying to aim for, let's say, roughly, your song at the end of the product is going to be like about -6 LUFS to -10 LUFS. So you're trying to keep your premix at around -14, -16, -18. That would be nice. That would be nice. You could do it even lower and then just let mixer adjust the volumes. But if you can adjust volumes yourself without distorting the mix or clipping it, do it. And as I said, make sure nothing clips. Don't clip it. If you're adjusting the volumes, don't clip it. Now, microdynamic arrangement. This is the second type of arrangement. And guess who's responsible for it? Arranging engineer. And guess who could also be responsible for it? Tracking engineer. And guess who else could be responsible for it? Premix engineer. Microdynamic arrangement means you're trying to adjust the small details, the small faults, like make sure nothing clips. It's kind of part of it, but it's more general. But here, you're trying to find individual clips, make sure vocal transients are correct. That's what I'm talking about by the clips. Sometimes you want those clips, those transients, those punchy sounds, but sometimes you don't. So you need to look for those transients. Transients is just the punches, the highest point of the sound when it comes like a snappy snare. The snap in a snare is a transient. Make sure vocal delivery is correct. Yes, you need to quality control. Again, microdynamic arrangement is another quality control. That's why the same person is responsible for it most of the time. It could be another one, but trust me, it's like most people are smart enough to work in different areas at the same time. And if you encounter some people who are like, very unique micro arrangers or macro arrangers or trackers, 50-50 for me. Nowadays, it's 50-50 because usually those people tend to be very old and tend to be very out of touch with how things go nowadays. And it's none of their fault. It's because, the technology is exponentially progressing and we are we are gradually dying. So it makes sense why people get disattached. I prefer younger people to be arranging and tracking, because this is like they kind of sit together. Arrangers and trackers sits very nice together because it's very thoughtful role, two very thoughtful roles. And plus, you can have an arranger and an assistant and a tracker and an assistant. So you still have two engineers here, and it's still two very good engineering jobs. Again, this area is very important, so everything here is important. But yeah, and of course, make sure sibilant noises are relevant. Sometimes you want sibilants, sometimes you don't. And if you don't want sibilants, you have to cut it out. If you want sibilants, you have to, maybe enhance it. Or actually, the best way to do it is just feed it back to the tracker. And especially if you are the tracker, you can just feed it back to your client and you can get a better take. It will take you like 10 minutes, right? Should be very fucking easy, honestly, because it's all fun. If you're not having fun, of course it's not going to be easy, but you should be having fun. And then final vocal treatment, as you know, as here, final vocal arrangement, final vocal arrangement, final vocal treatment. This is where you actually start finally treating your vocals at the source material. You're not trying to. Now you're applying some effects because sibilants might use some de-esser, and then vocal delivery is correct. You need to feed it back also. You need to feed it back to the artist or to the tracker. Yeah. Microdynamic is responsible for the small details. If there's some small mistakes here and there, microdynamic arranger should correct all of them. If they correct all of them, it is beautiful. You'll get so many compliments from your pre-mixer, from your mixer, from your master, from your production, from everyone, man, literally. If you just correct all of those mistakes, as many as you can. But remember, you are there to correct them. You're not there to change the mix. You're there to correct the mistakes. Pre-mix engineer, right? A bit obsolete profession, to be honest, because it could be mastering engineer, could be post-production engineer, could be mixing, pre-mixing engineer, could be arranging engineer, could be composer, could be tracking engineer probably as well. I don't know. So yeah, what you do here is you start applying effects already. Like you start using equalizer, which is the way to cut out frequencies or to add frequencies or to mush them or to not mush them, or to cut out, high pass, low pass, body pass. All that is equalizer. Then what's more important is you need to add your effects, you need to add your compressors, and you need to add your buses. So you need to add your effects on your buses, and you need to add your compressors maybe on your buses with effects, and of course, most important, on your channels, on your vocal channels, your instrument channels. It could be light compressors, could be hard compressors. It depends what type of sound you're trying to get out of the sample that you're working with, or trying to get out of the a wave that you're working with, if we're talking about synthesizers and shit. Next, then automation. We need to start adding automation. So for dynamics, like microdynamic and macrodynamic arrangers might have already added automation, but pre-mix is where you do the quality control for the whole mix before you send it to the mix. So automation, honestly, you don't have to do automation. You could do like volume automation as a macro and micro, but it's honestly a bit. You could just leave it to pre-mixing, and it's fun because then you have a lot of raw material to work with and unaltered as well. So you kind of don't have to struggle of replacing those materials when you alter them here later with already affected channels. You don't have to do that. You can just start applying effects at the very end and just imagine how it's gonna sound the whole way here. You can put notes in the project as well. It works that way. And now, of course, check LUFS before sending to mixer. Absolute gold. You need to check if you're like having enough space to work with for the mixer and master and remixer. So you need to check for your LUFS. As I said, standard LUFS on the release of the song, if it's very loud song, it's probably going to be around like -6 LUFS. But if it is normal song, about -10, -12 LUFS. So that means maybe leave a good like 4, 6, 8 window of LUFS as you send it to the mixer and master. That would be nice, I think, because it gives a lot of space, and plus mixer can also pull up the volume as long as you put your effects correctly. Let's say if you put your compressor on a track and the threshold does not even reach the volume of the signal, it's not gonna even work, to be honest. So as long as you put that compressor as low as you put the LUFS, that's good, and then it works, right? Yeah, and then voice correction. Just you need to do quality check, quality control for all the voice. So if you need to feed it back to the tracker, to the micro, to the macro. Let's say if micro fucked up with some dynamics, let's say he cut up some end of the word by accident that he thought maybe would make it softer, but premix says that if you actually listen to it, it's kind of the word is fucked up or something. He's probably right. You need to feed it back to here, but it's just one. Honestly, all this process will take you less than a week of just, casually talking to each other. So it's nothing professional. What's more professional is like this area, which we're going into. But before I go into it, yeah, I have this one. You can set your rough final compressor here to premix into it. Gives a sketch idea of how your mix will behave with compressor. Yeah, speaking of it, this is all sketch. And in order for your sketch to really work with your head, just try to put some rough compressor, some VCA, some, FET maybe, some rough compressor, and try to maybe change some presets and see how your mix sounds with it. because sometimes compressor can show you mistakes and can teach you a lot. Compressor, your mistakes can teach you a lot, and compressor will show you a lot of mistakes. If you put a compressor in your premix, you will hear that maybe some sections are too loud, or maybe there is some attenuation you need to do. Maybe there is some bad frequencies that you need to cut out, or maybe there is I don't know, phase. There is some phase that is now present because maybe you cut out something in the mix by accident with the equalizer, right? Or maybe there is a lot of phase because you added a lot of phase, so now you need to kind of fix it. And compressor is really good at showing you those mistakes, especially like phase. Another thing with compressor and premix, you can premix in mono and stereo, because mono reveals a lot of phase. So, what do you do when you get all the cool material with all the effects, with everything that you need, so you don't really need to put any of your effects, unless you want to, but what do you do after you get all the stuff, all the stems, let's say, all the channels, all the buses, all the stems that you have? How do you mix them, master, and remix them? With mixing, it's relatively easy. Almost everything is important. Mixing splits into vocal treatment and musical dynamics arrangement. For mixing in vocals, sibilants can create a lot of resonance with other instruments, which fucks with the mix. So they will try to correct a lot of sibilants. Also, correct all pitch. Pitch, the wrong pitch might fuck with the other wave, just going off pitch, and it's very audible. It's very audible if you have the ear for it. So they'll try to correct the pitch. If anything, they'll feed it back, as I say here, I think. But if you do not want to use extra compression EQ and feel like production could be altered instead, feed it back to production, basically. If they feel like the pitch could be altered better by the vocalist, naturally, feed it back. And then also time aligning. Time aligning can create a lot of cool dynamics for the mixer, and if the time aligning is not how he wants it, then he'll correct it. It's very nice, because it's the same way you can alter a sound. If you raise a bit of mids, or you raise a bit of box, you raise a bit of highs, or you raise a bit of sibilants, you get a different sound. And that's why time aligning works the same way. If you move it just a bit there, the combination with the whole composition will create a completely different sound. And sometimes you get happy accidents, which is nice, but most of the times you're trying to time align. Musical dynamic arrangement. Remove conflicts, resonance. You know how they cut out those frequencies, like very sharp ones, and they're doing it between different instruments. So basically some instruments interact with one another because the way you spread them. Oh yeah, also another thing that I didn't put here, which I should have put, spreading, like remove conflicts. The reason you have conflicts is not usually because of the mono. It's because you have your mix in stereo, and looking after stereo is way harder than looking after mono. You're literally looking after 180 degrees instead of 1 degree. That is and also if you do in 360, let's say like surround 5.1 or something, or maybe you're running some plugins that imitate 360, you would want to alter a lot of resonance, because a lot of frequency will clash and they will create those resonant higher pitched notes. You know what resonance is. I shouldn't tell you. Everyone knows it. It's the same in nature as it's in music. So yeah, surgical and dynamic EQs. Mixer is very good with like surgically and dynamically EQing certain sections under certain sections, because sometimes it is way better to, instead of using a compressor, it is way better to just use a bit of EQ, and EQ that is moving or that is very precise. And that EQ, usually, this section kind of mixing, like you could also put it for the live mixing, because that's what live mixers do sometimes as well. They do a lot of surgical dynamic EQs. They remove all the resonance, and also like they try to correct phase with maybe adding some equalization to certain areas where phase is missing. So you want to add a bit of volume in that area, so phase aligns a bit, at least volume-wise, and it creates somewhat of a stable pattern of volume in mono. That's what you would want to try to do, note and note or correct phase, because you can also note phase and again feedback it to the production section and to the people who are responsible for creating that phase in the first place. You can just outsource it back to the source. All right, and then also use frequency selective compression as EQ. Yeah, frequency selective compression. It's basically where you just select certain areas that you might want to alter. Instead of compressing the whole signal, you're compressing certain, hertz areas, certain frequency areas. And that is also good because sometimes uh, compressing hard those areas could lead to a better phase, or it could lead to a some elements popping out in the back if you also lower the volume, but they're popping out kind of very. If you use also with a compressor, and if you use hard frequency selector compressor on one instrument, and then use an overall compressor with two instruments, I know it's hard. It sounds fucking hard, but it can create some unique effects. It can create some unique profiles, saturation profiles even, because some compressors have attached saturation profiles, and if you have a lot of them and you stack them in a certain cool way, which I'll discuss later, you can create really cool, unique, personalized even saturation profiles through using different compressors together. Very fucking cool. All right, next one. Now we're heading into after our. Oh, by the way, speaking of musical dynamics arrangement, if you didn't notice what musical dynamics arrangement is, basically our kind of final quality control, except like this one, revision. Revision is not really quality control; it's more like a revision, right? But musical dynamics arranger, unlike micro and macro, which look for all and which look for specific areas, musical dynamics arranger is specifically, it's like it's basically a critic. It's a critic of everything. It's a critic of the smallest, the best things, and he's also the guy. He's culinary gastronomy of arrangement. He's the guy who actually knows everything about macro and micro, and he's just there to, do the gastronomy about the cook-up you just made in your production section. Because remember, this shit is in production, but musical is in post-production. It will probably get even paid more money. I'm just saying. This stuff is a finesse level of control, of quality control. It is the critic in a restaurant. It is trying to give you a Michelin star, or it's trying to take it away. This is how you should perceive it. Musical dynamics arrangement is overall most important step of arranging in the post-production section. And now we go into remix. Post-production production. Now that is what you probably mean by post-production. It's actually just post-production production. You can do more production post-production, and that production will be considered remix. Add your beat breaks, chops, transitions, and so on. Create different iterations of mix for variety, cinematics, SFX. You should understand, this is just a way of, making different ways of fucking with your beat, of making it brighter, or making it cooler, of making it different. Maybe they are mixing it with different style. You made a cloud trap beat, and they're putting it into some French core, or they're putting it into some, remixing it with Afrobeat if like the lyrics are really fucking soft and nice. There's a lot of ways you can spin around with this. And by the way, I'm sorry I'm so vulgar on post-production, but that's like, you have to realize that's the way you switch from production to post-production. Production is where you enjoy life, right? Is where you have fun, is where you create. In post-production is where you develop alcohol addiction, is where you develop smoking habits, and generally you become a dad in your 20s, and you develop back problems and carpal tunnel syndrome on your hands because you have to sit and work with computer 24/7 maybe sometimes, just to make it work. This is not fun. Apologies for the vulgarity. I mean, I don't really apologize. I just know it might hurt you. So don't be hurt. It's all right. Something hurts even more, like, being hit in the face. But yeah, remix. Very simple. In production, you just do the beat breaks, the chops, the transitions, create different iterations for the mix. And remember, those like chops, transitions, they might like screw up the volumes, but at the same time, like again, you can always feed it back and keep feeding it back. And it screwed up something, they'll feed it back to you. It's completely normal. Just fuck around with it. If there's something wrong with the volumes, you can always correct it through compressors. You can always correct it through automation. It's completely normal. You go into revision after remixing, after like thinking of ways to remix it. You can go into revision. And that's where you just finalize arrangement and conclude mixing. This is your brief before you master. it's not really a quality control as much as it is a brief before you master. Because if until this point, all your arrangers and trackers and premixers and the treaters and composers didn't do their job in finalizing arrangement and concluding mixing with the mixer, then you guys are doing it really slow. You'll have to just keep feeding it back until you guys learn to be better and do it faster. But trust me, like by this point, everyone should be already on point, right? So we shouldn't give a fuck about it at all, man. We should be caring more about. Oh my God, no. Look, I didn't put much into it, but now this is some... What the fuck did I even write, man? Use compressors to add last colors to your mix through profiles. Man, this is a complex thing. So masters have access to not just compressors, but to an infinite knowledge of different compressors through experience. And they know exactly what compressor is good for what compression is good for what, if it needs to be a limiter, if it needs to be an expander, if it needs to be dynamic, if it needs to be multipress, if it needs to be frequency selective. They know all of that, right? And they also know how to combine those profiles. So this is what I mean by use compressors to add last colors to your mix through profiles. Basically, music dynamic coloring. Oh my God, this is so fun. I don't know why I wrote it. I guess that's how I perceived it. This is all you care about. You just care about creating unique profiles with the effects that you have. You're basically the digital Leonardo da Vinci with this one. Huh? And then you go into master, which is use compressors to add volume to your track, as opposed to colors to your mix with profiles like saturation, let's say opto compressor has a good profile for vocals. It has a very slow, very nice knee to it. So basically compression is very gradual and slow, and like you don't even need to add a lot of release to it. Master, use compressor to add volume to your track. You just use compressors like VCA. You use solid bus compressors. You use VCA. You use all the hard compressors and limiters to basically adjust the final volume of all your track. It could be sometimes you need to fix some channels with the volume and then adjust the volume with the master. But basically, what master does, just as a master, right? He uses compressors to add volume to your track, and he creates different iterations based on different platforms. Then he creates a minus of the track, and he finalizes the track into stems. I know there is more to it, but honestly, if everything was done here before already nice, compressors is the best tool a master can use for mastering. For music dynamic coloring, it's amazing, because there's some really unique compressors that add really good. There's no effect in a library, there's no digital effect that can do what masters can do with a compressor if they know the right compressor. And it's even better if they do it in parallel or if they do it in a series. Oh my God, they can just really tune up. And that compression can be, by the way, here is very hard compression, could be limiting compression, right? Which is like a ratio at 8 and plus, and threshold at, whatever you put, and then plus you have to put a limiter at 0 dB. Or if you're doing it for Spotify at -1 dB, right, where they have a -1 dB restriction so they can pull up the volume later. But yeah, 0 dB is where you need to put it, but if you put it 0 dB, make sure it is the hardest compression ever, because if you put it at 0, there's still something gonna go through. Usually people put it at 0.3 dB, which is perfect, because if you put a hard limiter, there's not much they're going to go pass through 0.3 and reach 0, which is perfect. Here, however, you use very soft compressors, and you use them in series or use them parallel, very soft, like a little ratio 1.5 to 2 to 2.5 to 3 with like different profiles, opto, VCA, FET, tube, whatever, man. You use anything you want. Very soft, very hard compressors. And of course, as a master, it's your fucking job to create different iterations based on different platforms. Really fucking hard. Create minus of the track. Sometimes could be hard because it depends on the artist. If artist is bitching with you, then you're going to have a lot of minuses and you're probably going to suffer about it, because the same people who ask you for many minuses, probably the same people who don't keep them in their folders and just lose them, and are not very responsible with how they want their project to be. Usually you need like at least usually need just one minus, and that's it. Maybe two minuses, where you have one minus with no vocals at all, then one minus with just very dull vocals. So you have some like feedback track on the back, but it's not too loud. Or you could have three minuses, and the third one is going to be just the ad-libs, just the effects with the vocals, but not the main vocal. Okay, you can have three iterations like this, but if they ask you like, oh, just make some specific iterations here and there, and it ends up 10 iterations, yeah, that's a problem. Don't make it more than three. Three iterations is good. And then finalize track into stems. This is really nice because you can finalize track into stems and then you can sell it. You already do it here, kind of. I didn't add it here, actually. I should have added it here. Premix, you should finalize tracks into stems, and also color-coded channels. It's really good. I don't do it. I personally don't do color-coded channels, but my friends do, and they really like it. So that's why I didn't put it here. I'm sorry. Look, a lot of information is missing here because I'm not doing it, man. Or maybe I just like don't pay attention to it. So, yeah. For mastering, very technical things. Nothing really interesting, man. It's really boring and tedious. But yeah, the feedback loop, how it works. Once you mastered everything, you go into curation. But if your client doesn't like it, or wants a different version, like for one or the other reason, he feeds it back to the master, right? But if the master feels like a different mixing could help you more, instead of compressors at master stage, you'll feed it back to the remix and the mixing. Set it back to the mixing with notes attached and repeat, man. Yeah, here also, client will make sure you know about it, so rinse and repeat. This is where shit not becomes fun. So you feed it back to the mixer, right? And then, but if you do not want to use extra compressors and EQ and feel like production could be altered instead, send it back to production with notes attached and repeat, man. You send it just back to the production. And this is your feedback loop. It's really easy. I know it looks funny and goofy, but trust me, it's that simple. It's just tedious, man, because sometimes this feedback loop can be endless if you have a lot of people involved. Or maybe like one or two people are too like perfectionist. You might have this loop so fucking infinite, and you wouldn't want to keep it like that. You would want to see this. This is the importance why I put it in this way. If you follow these steps like this, you shouldn't screw it up at the post-production section at all. If you finesse this section, if you finesse the production section, post-production is easy for the production. So trust. Just follow this little guideline if you wish. Or also, I think, yeah, feedback, sound engineering, no Dumb and Dumber here. Yeah, look, I just put in red. You can just save this one, right? You can pause, look at it. You don't even need to look at the feedback. You already get how it works. Yep. That's it. And I think I had something else. Oh, no. This I think I need to work on. What the hell is this? Client, oh no. No, this is business side, I didn't finish it. Okay. On this one, we gonna stop, because that's plenty of information for you anyways. I hope you enjoyed it. Next section is gonna be, let me think. Do I want to do it in order, or do I want to do what is more fun for me? Okay, next section is gonna be what is more fun for me. We're gonna do compressors.